let's just get right into it. Let's start with the 2024 NBA champion Boston Celtics, who by far the best team in the NBA last season, won the championship, and they kept the whole roster. They extended a whole bunch of their key players, and they're going to be looking just as scary as ever heading into next season. They even picked up Lonnie Walker like a couple of weeks ago. He's going to be fighting for a training camp spot. But this team, I mean, they're the same Celtics team we had last year that was the best in the league. Their over-under is 58.5 wins, the most in the league. Joey, let's start with you. What is a question that you have about the defending champs?
There's not many question marks with this team. Come on. There really isn't. This team is so good top to bottom. Even their backups have been looking good in this system. Like, I don't see them slowing down, but the only thing that could come in there is, can they stay healthy? Even if KP was healthy in the end, it would have been even more dominant of a championship run. But with him out, some weaknesses started to show a little bit. So if they stay healthy, easy over on the 58.5, easy over if they can just stay healthy. But that's a killer for a lot of teams, a lot of years. It's just to stay healthy. If they can do that, that's the only question mark I have with them.
So Kristaps Porzingis, that's a name who was injured a lot of the playoffs last season. This was like late in June. We talked about it momentarily, but he did go through surgery to repair a torn retinaculum. I don't know, a long word. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he did have surgery, and he was expected to return to play in 5 to 6 months from the end of June. So that would put him right near Christmas time, most likely. Nick, do you think that could have any effect on the Celtics to start the season?
Yeah, I definitely think it could. Joey, I'm glad you brought that up because my biggest thing with this team from the jump when they traded for Porzingis has been their depth and their sort of lack of it. I mean, they're bringing all these guys back. They have everyone locked up for the next couple of years. Tatum signed the Supermax. Derek White, they got him down on ink. Sam Hauser even inked it for 4 years, 45 mil. And then Drew and Jalen Drew signed it right before the playoffs started, and then Jaylen Brown obviously had the richest contract in the NBA for a time there. But I mean, they got those top 6 guys are set in stone. But after that, I mean, if one of those guys goes down, suddenly you're relying on someone like Sam Hauser or Luke Cornett or Peyton Pritchard, guys who aren't necessarily making more than like $9 or $10 million to have a pretty big role and play a lot of minutes. So yeah, I definitely think that their health could be a factor, especially if someone else goes down before December.
100%. I definitely think I like their depth, and like Sam Hauser, great dude off the bench. Pritchard, great dude off the bench. Luke Cornett, a great defensive dude that we showed last year. Like they got some, and Lonnie Walker was a great pickup. They got a lot of good guys on the bench. But if there is a serious injury, those guys aren't long-term solution. They're perfect for the bench. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely have the 6 best guys in the league. And a lot of times when you look at teams in the playoffs, if you have the best 6 players,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Usually that's the team that's going to win the championship. Al Horford's the only guy who isn't under contract. He is on the final year of his contract. I wouldn't be surprised if this was maybe the final year of his career. Could retire after this season. And I mean, it'd be great, now after finally winning his championship. Great career for Al Horford. Jackson, I am curious to hear what you think about the potential of championship fatigue, because that is something that comes across a lot of teams over the last few seasons, teams that win the championship then maybe get off to a rough start the next season. And this is already a Celtics team that did have 3 players play for Team USA over the summer, and Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum. You can make the jokes about him not really playing for them, but he was still on the team over in playing for them. Do you think that could potentially have an impact on the Celtics in the regular season?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but not much, just because they have been playing, like, most of their core did play together this offseason. And obviously, like you said, Olympic play. So I don't think it's going to affect them as bad as, like, it affected a team like the Nuggets this year. So I think the Nuggets, especially in the playoffs, didn't look like the same type of team. And I think I think it's because of championship fatigue, like you said. But I don't think it's going to happen for the Celtics because really the Nuggets didn't have a team like Team USA where they could kind of keep that gel together, like keep that
Keep the juices flowing.
Keep the like team chemistry going as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, but one thing that kind of does scare me a little bit is how Jaylen Brown kind of handled that whole situation, not being on Team USA instead of like just in the public media. I mean, he probably behind the scenes was a little better about it, but in the public media, we didn't really see him congratulate Derek White, and instead was complaining about how he didn't get in himself, which kind of bothered me a little bit. And I'm sure Derek White probably, I mean, like I said, he probably said something like behind the scenes that was like obviously congratulating him, but just going to the media like that is the best player on arguably probably the best team in the NBA. You can't be doing that.
Well, that's my question about the Celtics. Coming in, biggest question for me is who is their best player? Anyone?
Probably.
I think.
Jaylen Brown.
I definitely think Jason Tatum, because I honestly still think he was their best player in the playoffs, despite statistically he still was their best player in the playoffs with their numbers, had better numbers than Jaylen Brown. And honestly, I think that he is going to have a monster year this year, coming off of the Team USA, him not, really playing for them, being out of the rotation a lot. We talked about it before while it was happening, like, makes sense. Who are you going to put him in over? You're not going to play over LeBron, Durant. It's hard for him to fit in. But he, I think, should rightfully be thinking, I'm the best player on the best team in the league, NBA championship team, first team All-NBA, and I'm not playing for my country? Like, this is ridiculous. I think that he should have a chip on his shoulder heading into the season. And I think that could be, something that could definitely help the Celtics with their record.
Another question I had about this team was going back to last year, was their dominant run fully based on their merit as a team, or was it like they went 16-3 in the playoffs, but was it a product of just like was it probably just their own merit, or was it just like a down year and injuries for a lot of other teams that kind of led to that run as well?
That's a huge question. We're going to get immediately after this, we're going to get to two of the other top teams in the East. You could say the 2 and 3 best teams in the Eastern Conference. The East is definitely going to be a lot tougher this season than it was last year, of course, if everyone, stays healthy. But I mean, even like this time last season, it was really the Celtics and the Bucks as the two teams that everyone was like, okay, these two teams are going to be battling for the top of the East. Now, it's a lot of wild cards. You got the Celtics team obviously at the top. We're going to get to the Knicks. We're going to get to the Sixers. The Bucks again with year 2 of Dame and Giannis. We'll get to their team in a couple of videos. You got a Cavs team that's gotten better, the Magic. A lot of teams that are going to be fighting for them. It's not going to be as much of a cakewalk as I think it was last season.
Right.
Another thing that this team kind of resembles for me, if we want to get to the win total, because I do think 58.5 wins, that's a tough number to kind of decipher. This could remind me a bit of the Warriors from when they won the championship in 2015. And it was a great championship run, but I remember that whole offseason, a little similar to this season with the Celtics, where the Warriors, every team they faced, their starting point guard was injured. And then the Cavs, Kevin Love was also injured in that finals as well. And everyone was like, oh, that championship isn't real because you played a bunch of injured teams, kind of like what the Celtics did. And the Warriors came back, and that was their 73-9 season. I don't think the Celtics are going to win 70-plus games, but hearing all this talk in the offseason about how they played injured teams and all that, could that get them to just be like, just go crazy and prove that they really are the best team in the league?
Well, they had 64 wins last year.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Hard to get better than that. That is.
I was about to say I might have a hot take. I think they hit 70 games this year. I think
you do think so? Okay.
I honestly think they could hit 70 games this year, even with KP out, because Horford can hold his own for at least a little bit, especially if he has a full off season to recover. it's when the playoffs that it's like towards the end of the season. It's like okay, but hopefully Porzingis will be healthy and back by then. So
There's no
I forgot.
way.
I forgot Joey was a hot take king.
I don't know, man. I still think I don't
Mike Brown
see
getting fired.
Mike. Stop.
Call
Stop.
back.
No, Tyronn Lue getting
Tyronn
fired by
Lue.
Christmas.
Tyronn Lue's
That was
fired by
the other
Christmas.
one.
Oh yeah, my bad.
But no, the Celtics, like you bring up a great point, Miles. I think they might have a chip on their shoulder, and just like there's a lot of guys with chips on their shoulder, like you said, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis to be healthy and dominant when he comes back. Like there's a lot of guys that have still a lot to prove for a team that last year they just had to win the championship to prove themselves. And it's dropped 64 wins. And you have more motivation. I don't think championship fatigue will come out. I think they're going to be a well-oiled machine. I think they have it down, but I would not be surprised if in the playoffs, same thing happens like what happened to the Warriors. Maybe not a comeback, but like everybody else kind of steps up and gives them a tougher time than they did in the regular season.
Okay. I like that hot take. I definitely do. I'm not mad at it at all. I would love to see it happen, honestly. A team go for 70 wins. Because
I don't think Joe Mazzulla would let that happen. I just feel like Joe Mazzulla, like once they clinch the 1 seed, he would be like, all right, let's like make sure these guys are rested for the playoffs. We don't really
that's
care
kind
about
of what they did.
getting...
That's kind of what they did at the end of last season. Once they officially clinched it. I mean, they basically had it locked up for the whole second half of the season.
Yeah.
I have an even hotter take.
Oh, gosh. All right, what is it?
Oh, boy.
Celtics aren't even going to finish as the 1 seed this year.
Hey,
here we go.
I don't think that that's a hot take. Honestly, I would not be surprised whatsoever if they did not get.
You guys are crazy.
The number
of course, Godwin is going to think his Knicks are going to take the 1 seed.
I'm not even talking about the Knicks.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I don't know who it's going to be, but I think there's going to be a team that's going to finish better than them. There's so many wild.
That's going to be your.
I know you're not.
It's going to be your hot take for the Knicks.
I know he's not taking Joel. I know he's not taking Joel.
But I don't mind that take at all. Like the Celtics, when it comes to playoff time, I mean that's another thing with this team. It could go one of two ways. They could go the route that Joey's saying, like I was saying before, how they're going to have a chip on their shoulder and they're just going to breeze through the regular season and have a great record. Or they do get that championship fatigue because they have three of their players in their starting lineup playing for Team USA, and Porzingis is out for the first half of the season, and their record isn't that great, by the end of the season. But we know when the playoffs come around, this team is the favorite if healthy, and they could just have a lax regular season. We've seen that before where, teams...
I got a sleeper team for it.
Let's talk win total. Let's see. I want to know if you guys are taking the over-under.
58.5 wins. Jackson, he's got to go under if he's saying they're not going to be 1 seed.
I'm going to have to go. I mean, they didn't lose anybody. They're bringing everybody back. They had 64 wins last year. We're talking like they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I'm going over.
I'm going over, obviously.
I think they finished as the 2 seed behind the Orlando Magic.
Oh, boy.
What is going on here?
Everyone just turned the podcast off. Everyone just turned it off.
Hear me out. I think that's going to be the case because I think Paolo's going to be most improved player. So sue me.
Most improved player. That award needs to be banned if he wins most improved player.
I agree. I tend to agree with you. I hate that.
I'm not saying I would agree with it. I'm not saying I would agree with it, but I think just based off what we've seen,
you've gone from saying
averaging I think he's going to average 28 points per game.
Dude, you've been saying guys like Jalen Johnson and Jabari Smith are this is like your 4th guy for most improved player in these preview videos.
Yep.
I can't wait. Well, eventually, when we get to the actual preseason burning questions where we'll talk about each individual award, I'm excited to hear who the one guy is going to be for Jackson for that award. Me personally, I am going to go under by half a game. This team's going to win 58 games.
Okay.
Because I think that the whole league is going to be way more competitive. I think the Celtics, when it comes to playoff time, are still going to be the favorite in the East, but in the regular season, it's going to be way more difficult to get to 60-plus wins, I think. So I'm going to go 58 wins. I think it's going to be a very, very tight Eastern Conference at the top.